I am a 20-year-old female, and I seriously cannot understand the appeal of going to a strip club, especially going with your friends. Let's all sit next to each other, become aroused, and then drive home. Like why? Story 1. To me, honestly, feeling attractive. The women there sell you a fantasy. They think you are attractive and want to share their attractive body with you. It is a lie, but a little self-deception is necessary. I was not really into it, and my first experience was not worth the cost. But walking in completely sober, and having a very attractive woman walk up to greet me wearing almost nothing, and start playing with my hair behind my ear, my brain turned off like a switch. She could have convinced me to do anything in that moment. Men rarely get seduced. We are always the seducer, especially single men. So having a woman show that kind of interest, even if it is a lie, I can see the appeal. Story 2. I have been to one, but I am not sure. As a man, look but do not touch is a miserable position to be in. I will just skip that experience if invited. Story 3. 29 and never been. Always preferred the casino. If I am going to throw away money, at least I have a chance of winning. Story 4. You are a girl. I like beer. I like breasts. I like my friends. If I combine all three together, it is a fun time. And who says you get aroused going to strip clubs? Maybe if you are 18, but men can see breasts and not get aroused. Story 5. I don't understand soccer. At its best, it is a group of men running around in shorts kicking a ball and trying to get it into a net. If you watch it live, you have to sit for 3 hours. How does that work? Story 6. My point of view only, and it differs from most. On my best day, I am a 4. Women do not approach me in clubs or pubs. If I approach women, the majority are not interested. In a strip club, not only do women approach me and want to spend time with me, but those women are attractive, even very attractive. Yes, they have an ulterior motive, but that does not ruin it for me. Story 7. It can be a lot of fun, but it introduces an awkward element of intimacy when you are sitting with your friends. Having breasts in your face is never a bad thing. Story 8. I do not really care for them. They are quite sad and greasy. I would rather drink somewhere without the practice of women grabbing banknotes off people's faces with their bodies. Story 9. Male here. I don't see the fun in it either. I would rather go home and be with my wife. I knew people who would go weekly. I just never understood it. It's like buying a nice warm tasty pizza that you can't eat and just throwing money at it. Story 10. 60-year-old male here. I never understood it myself. It would be like watching adult content with male friends. Absolutely not. Story 11. I do not understand the idea either. It seems unappealing to me. It is very similar to watching adult content with friends or a room full of strangers, except people expect you to spend a lot of money. The idea of watching adult content with people I am not planning on having a relationship with seems strange to me. Story 12. Male here. Hey, so I am not alone. I never understood that. It is like if you were hungry and you went to a restaurant to watch and smell fancy food, and then tip the waiter who lets you smell the aroma. Hey, but with music. Story 13. I went once for a bachelor party and did not really like it. I went a few times with my bisexual former wife and it was alright. It was more her thing than mine. Most of what I saw in my few visits were either men attending parties because it is tradition or seems manly, and single men who sit by the stage drinking beers and quietly tossing in singles to make the strippers crawl over, looking kind of lonely and defeated by life. Story 14. As a man, I agree. If I am looking at random naked women, I prefer it to be anonymous over the internet in my own home, and that is free. Story 15. Personally, I have no desire to casually look at a nearly naked woman with whom I am not in a relationship. Story 16. I've never had any desire to go to strip clubs. I also find it strange that a group of men would want to go out and get horny together. That said, I did go to a strip club once. The dancers found out it was my first time ever going, and they were very friendly, gave me hugs, talked to me, and smiled a lot. It was a very friendly experience with nice vibes. I did not find any part of the experience to be a turn-on, though the women were beautiful. I will not go back again. I think different strip clubs have very different atmospheres. The one I went to was pretty low-key. Story 17. I went to one in my early 20s because I thought, hey, I am single, why not? All I got was a smaller bank account and discomfort. Never again. Story 18. I have been a couple of times with men and women and basically had the same experience with both. It is a bar, it is relaxed. Yes, there are naked women. But to be honest, I personally do not like spending money just for the tease. But that is just me. To each his own. Story 19. I understand the appeal of wanting to see a woman dancing in very little clothing, but I am just not interested. It feels too sleazy for me, and I would feel really weird actually going to one. Story 20. I went with a friend to Las Vegas, and it was fun partially because it was Las Vegas. I went to one in my town a few times until I ran out of money and basically stopped going. Not completely out of money, but I wasted a few $100s over an 8-week period. Then stopped going. I liked the music, dancers, attention, and appearance. Story 21. If you are confident and self-deprecating about being at a strip club, and not some desperate creep, the conversations with the strippers are not half bad either. Story 22. We like women. We like seeing women naked and dancing. Do we sound like a bunch of horny monkeys? Well, yes. Story 23. It's like being at a bar with your friends. Only there are naked women to look at too. This usually happens if we get pretty drunk and want the night to keep going. Or there are a few men who haven't been with a woman in a long time and always want to go for obvious reasons. Can also happen on special occasions. Story 24. The appeal is clear. Attractive naked or topless women. That being said, I have only been twice years ago and have no desire to go back. I felt awkward in that environment. Story 25. Naked women. That is the appeal. It is also strangely awkward, but oh well. My wife has gone with me and it is fun. Story 26. Some men love that stuff. For me, brother, I'm with you. A bunch of sweaty naked women teasing you like we don't get teased enough going to the supermarket. I'll pass every time. If someone is going to put on a show for me, I would much rather it be someone I can touch and love. Story 27. Some coworkers and I would go to one, and we would meet up there. Cheap beer, free food, good entertainment. I don't get aroused seeing naked women. I was brought up as a nudist, so seeing bare flesh doesn't affect me that way. I can appreciate how well a dancer looks or how talented she is at dancing, doing pole work, and so on. We would invite the dancers to our table so they could eat and socialize a bit. I would bring extra money, typically in $2 bills, and give them to my friends who would go and tip the women. One woman thought the $2 bills were fake and wouldn't accept them. Eventually, they eliminated the early no-cover charge. Then they raised the price of drinks. Then they blasted the music louder, making socializing with the dancers and among ourselves more difficult. Then they got rid of the free food. That's when we stopped going. Story 28. I've been to clubs that were money pits. The best one I went to was chill. The girls did not care if you wanted to dance or not and would play pool with you and chat. That place was great until the new owners took over and it declined. Story 29. It's never the number one option. Meeting real girls and having a great night is always better. But if the realistic options are either being ignored by girls at a bar or a movie, breasts and alcohol win out. Story 30. It's the definition of a party. Alcohol, loud music, naked women, and money. There is a time and place for this, but it can be fun if you simply enjoy yourself with your friends and do not go with the intent of being disrespectful. Story 31. It's no different from any other bar. It just features naked ladies instead of televisions showing sports. I would rather watch naked ladies than most sports. Story 32. Bobbies. I have never been to one and am not really interested. A few years ago, some people at work went away while I was sick. When they returned, I found out they went to the strippers. I am happily married, so I am not sure I would have gone. I probably would have just played on my phone. My wife has breasts, and I can play with them without a bouncer kicking me out. To quote Ron Swanson, I can't help but think most of the ladies are running a low-grade fever. Story 33. I can't get really aroused by that, so for me it is more like watching something interesting. Story 34. It is basically like a bar, but with live entertainment featuring dancers. Depending on the club, you can also pay for a private dance. The sexual services are typically found in underground clubs where illegal activities may occur. Story 35. I have had relations with an exotic dancer, so I understand the appeal of a private experience, but I could not imagine paying for it. Story 36. I know it works for some men, but not so much for me. Being a very tactile person, naked people you cannot touch seems silly to me. Prostitution makes more sense to me than strippers. Story 37. Before the scandal, when William Henry Cosby Jr. was funny, he described going to a strip club as being hungry and watching your neighbor barbecue a steak over the fence. Story 38. My opinion is that it is for men who are desensitized to naked women, whether due to pornography addiction, low testosterone, extensive experience, or a combination of these factors. An alternative theory is that it stems from some form of exhibitionist impulse in men. Your reaction to an attractive woman is sexual. It is something that makes women who like you feel aroused. For me, expressing my sexual attraction feels sexual, which is why I would never want to do that somewhere where someone knows me. I would never want to go to a place like that with friends or where anyone who knows me might see me. Story 39. I'm a 35-year-old man, and I never understood the appeal. The only times I went to a strip club were when my friend from the military returned from basic training and wanted to go. He paid for everything and spent over $300 on lap dances. He could have hired a decent escort for that amount. Another time was because there is a strip club in San Francisco called Gold Club that has a $5 all-you-can-eat buffet. We used to go there for lunch during my job. But to actually go on your own just sounds awful, and I feel bad for men who need to go just to see breasts. Story 40. I'm with you. My friends and I are hanging out soon in New York City, and we joked about a strip club. We were all like, it seems kind of unusual. All of us were sitting around feeling frustrated together. Story 41. No idea. It is basically like going to a restaurant and paying to look at the food. I have never been kicked out of my bedroom for jerking it. Story 42. I went to a strip club once, and that is when I learned it seems a lot sexier on television. I do not like being touched by strangers. Story 43. The only time I have ever been to a strip club was with my ex-wife. It was fun because we were with friends, but the best part of the night was when my ex started making out with her best friend. I closed the tab and the three of us went home. I do not go to strip clubs and do not gamble. I do not like throwing money at something I may or may not get anything back in return. If I am going to waste cash, it will be on one of my cars. At least it will bring a smile to my face. Story 44. Drink alcohol. Look at naked women. Get a lap dance while you are drinking. Homie got it right. It is not rocket science. Story 45. I used to enjoy going when I was younger, before the internet existed. I truly felt I had a chance at taking one of the girls home. I got plenty of phone numbers, but oddly, no one ever answered when I called. Story 46. Strip clubs always seemed like a boring waste of money. If I am going to spend hundreds on a prostitute, I might as well go to a brothel and actually be with them. Story 47. I have never cared for them. I have been to several group settings as you stated. I feel like they are just a money sink. Story 48. As I described it to my now wife, it is like a sports bar, but instead of a bunch of televisions with games, it has naked women. You can look at them, but you cannot touch unless you pay a lot. Personally, I always preferred a regular bar where you could actually have a chance of meeting someone. Some people like the idea of a random stripper thinking they like them, I suppose. Story 49. Worked in one. It is a bar with nude women. Not that hard to understand. The women make more money than you could imagine. Story 50. No idea. Never been and do not see the appeal either. The only thing worse would be an adult theater with the same audience but without strippers and drinks. Story 51. I do not know where you are from, but here the concept of a strip club has been a joke for decades. It is the lowest level of class you can imagine and attracts the same crowd. Story 52. Some people enjoy going to watch the new Marvel movie in a theater and feel excited about that. I prefer drinking beer and feeling excited while watching naked women dance. To each their own, you know? Story 53. For me, it used to be just being able to openly talk to a woman about anything. Strippers are not shocked by much, and they are humans who can be there for you even though you are paying them. It is like a service, kind of a therapy. I do not go anymore, but typing about it here is making me want to go again. I dated a stripper briefly. Yikes. Hard to be around that lifestyle. But they just provide a service like anyone else. For all of those guys who say you cannot touch, you are amateurs. I only have touched with consent, but I would say I have touched a fair amount in those clubs. Do not be fooled thinking there is not sex and all kinds of things going on in those places. Story 54. Excuse me, those are exotic dancers. These are gentlemen's clubs. Have some respect for the talented performers. Story 55. I am with you, original poster. It is as exciting as going to an automobile exhibition. If you cannot climb in and drive, what is the point? Story 56. As a gay man, I have been to many strip clubs with my straight friends. I understand what they find appealing about the experience. A few people have mentioned that the strippers will sit down at the table and talk. I have seen this happen on several occasions. The guys get upset because they end up talking to me more than to the other men. One of my friends called me out for being gay, and I ended up with an arm around me because she felt no pressure at all and was a very down-to-earth woman. Story 57. Do you ever go to the movies and have a few beers? Or to a concert and have some drinks? It is like that, but with naked women. Most bars are not enjoyable because they lack entertainment. I appreciate a good show while having some drinks. Story 58. Are you going to get me a beer, strip down to your panties, grind on my lap, and rub your breasts in my face for a little bit of cash? No? They will. You are 20 and there is a lot you do not understand about men yet, and that is okay. But please understand this. Most men love breasts, beer, being grinded on, a gorgeous woman making him feel desired, and walking away feeling like a king. He will go home and can relieve himself several times over the next week while thinking about her the entire time. Or he can try dating applications in regular bars and have average-looking women judge him on his height, weight, income, and more. What is he going to choose? Story 59. I have only been to a strip club once. It is not my preference. The alternative was sharing a hotel room with my supervisor and his spouse. However, the number of women from the conference we were attending who were enjoying the strip club was surprising. Story 60. The solo guys in the champagne room might be there to get interested. The groups are there to hang out, chat, and enjoy the view. You end up getting into discussions and sometimes ignoring the girls. It is nothing intense, just something to do. Story 61. This is like asking why men like women who are attracted to other women. Oh, look, something I like. But there are two of them. Nice. Story 62. I never understood. When I was young and curious, a few friends and I went to strip clubs, but I wasn't impressed, other than seeing nearly naked women. There was no real excitement for me. You can't touch them, and if I can't touch, feel, or taste it, then it's not exciting. I've been to clubs 5 times in my 59 years. Once or twice when I was young, a couple of times for bachelor parties, and once when a girlfriend and I had a fight just to irritate her. I could get as much excitement from looking at magazines because in my mind it's the same thing. Story 63. A former close friend of mine was addicted to them because he became very religious to marry a devout woman, and this was his outlet. He had many other addictive behaviors that ultimately cost him his career, besides wasting his money at strip clubs. Story 64. I am 55, straight male. I never enjoyed it at all. I only really ever went for bachelor parties and was bored mercilessly. Story 65. When I was a young man, I used to frequent a couple of bars. It was fun to get drunk, talk with friends, and enjoy watching some lovely ladies dance. What is not to like? Story 66. From a woman. For normal men, a strip club is a place to hang out and have fun with other men, and it is acceptable to look. Some men are lonely and go there regularly to talk with the women they like. They can also buy a woman a drink or soda in some places and have her listen to them or socially interact. Some men just go when their friends have a bachelor party. There is no reason to worry if your partner visits a strip club and you think he is going to run off with a stripper. The women tactfully turn down men for a living, similar to an attractive bartender or cocktail waitress. Your experience may vary depending on the environment of the bar. Some of the women are great dancers and perform amazing and dangerous pole work. Story 67. The only time I had a good time in a strip club was when, after talking with the performer, she went out drinking with me. I ended up in her apartment having breakfast with her child. That was an interesting week. Story 68. I'm a man, and I have been dragged to strip clubs several times for various events such as bachelor or birthday parties. I really do not see the appeal either. It costs a lot of money to be teased with no payoff. I would rather spend the money on a really nice dinner and go somewhere with high-end cocktails. That is exactly what I did at my own bachelor party. Story 69. Men are much more visually aroused. I never had a partner just dance and show off her body to me like a stripper would. Plus, they are not my partner, so seeing an attractive, naked woman I did not know had its allure when I was young. Now, I doubt I would get very excited by it. Story 70. I know I never understood it either. I am a very straight male, but I can top that. When I was in the military a long time ago, you really met all types. One of these types rented a video player, one regular movie, and 2 adult films, then started playing the latter in front of 30 men who had not seen a woman in about a week. Some tried to laugh and comment on the action, but most of us thought it was the most uncomfortable thing ever and left before anything happened. Story 71. There are non-advertised services, if you know what I mean. I never spent extra to get these services, but I got really drunk, and the girl asked me to share a bottle in the champagne room. I thought it was better to leave before spending more money. The appeal would be hard for the average woman to understand, as women generally receive a lot of male attention. The average man rarely gets any female sexual attention, and even good-looking men have to put in effort to get anything. Only rich or famous men have abundant female attention. The rest of us go years without any. Story 72. Here's my opinion on strip clubs. There's nothing wrong with drinking a little and seeing naked women live, whether by yourself, with friends, or even with your partner. The same applies to women who hire male strippers. It is a good stress reliever in the sense that you are breaking your usual habits and doing something that feels unusual. Realistically, it is a bit strange at the end of the day, but that does not mean it cannot be a positive experience. Also, money matters. There is a huge difference in experience between a rundown strip club in the middle of nowhere and a high-end one in Las Vegas. Story 73. As a woman who appreciates the female body, I want to go with my husband at some point in our lives. He has never been, and I have never been, and I feel like it would be really fun. I plan to have a good time and enjoy myself. Story 74. As a famous comedian once said, it is like a restaurant where they do not let you eat the food. They just show it to you and then take it away. Story 75. They were fun when I was in my 20s. When one of my friends had his bachelor party, now in our mid to late 30s, one of his younger friends really wanted to go, even though most of us did not want to. We went and it was kind of lame. Most of the other guys already had children, which discouraged them. I just thought it was a waste of money that I did not have to spend. It is just not my vibe anymore. It was also just a topless bar, despite being offered extra services multiple times for a ridiculous amount of money. Story 76. Let me offer a nuanced perspective. As a man, you see attractive women all the time, in passing, at the grocery store, at the bank, at work. In your day-to-day life, you cannot stop a woman and say, "Hey, hold on. I want to look at you." And that is with clothes on. Without clothes, almost never. Imagine you are with a woman, and you want her to take off her clothes and stand in front of you while you take some time to admire her. Some women are indifferent, but many just want to get on with it. At a club, you can just look. You do not have to hide your gaze or look away if she catches your eye. There is no reason to be shy. She will likely take her clothes off and you get to see. For most men, that is all. For others, they want private encounters. Story 77. It depends on whether it is planned or not. It can be enjoyable when you end up there late at night with your friends after an unsuccessful attempt with the ladies. You sit down and look at nude women before going to bed. Story 78. I DJ'd for years, and out of thousands of customers, maybe 5 or 6 treated it like a place to get turned on. The reason was basically to be away from their wives and bosses for a while, combined with solo married men who wanted attention and someone to listen. This was in Portland for context. Atlanta is a different scene, as are Miami and Las Vegas. But the strippers were mostly just naked therapists. Story 79. My best friend owns a strip club, and I used to hang out with him and a group of the girls regularly. They would invite me to the club almost every night, and I would hang out with our friends, just relaxing, eating, drinking, laughing, and having a good time. After a while, the fact that the girls were naked became something I didn't even notice. I was simply there hanging out with my friends. Years later, a few of those girls are still very close friends of mine. Some men are addicted to going to strip clubs, which I noticed while I was there. Felt kind of sad to me. You would see the same men come in, attracted to the same girls, and spend a lot of money. The girls would come over to our private booth, drink with us, and talk about how sad or creepy some of the men were, or how some were nice. Most of the men who came regularly were there to talk to women. They had problems at home and came to have conversations with the girls. Those were the men I felt sorry for. At the end of the day, the girls are working, and the chances of a girl actually liking a customer are extremely low. Unless you hang out with them outside the club, the girl is just working. That said, a few girls did end up meeting their boyfriends at the club, and I dated a few of them, so it is not outside the realm of reality. In my case, these were friends I met outside the club who happened to work at my buddy's club. Just a note, this was outside of the United States. Clubs in the United States are much less intimate than those overseas, not in a sexual way. Story 80. Attractive girls pretending to show interest in me. I know it's fake, but so is Disneyland, which is also fun. Story 81. I've never been to a strip club unless a woman invited me. I had a friend invite me and my now wife out for a double Valentine's date once. Another time, my friend graduated from law school and invited me out. It was Portland that time, and that was a great experience. Story 82. Let's all go sit next to each other, get really excited, and then drive home. One of several reasons I have never been to one. Story 83. Male here. I am with you. I have never understood the attraction to look without being able to touch. What is the point? I do not understand the pornography thing for the same reason. Story 84. Never really been my favorite, but I understand. As others have suggested, it is a good time to hang out with friends or partners. Story 85. Bars close at 2 a.m. You can drink at the strip club until they close at 4, 5, or 6 a.m. As bartenders, we would go after bars closed so we could also drink. Story 86. When you are younger and not receiving attention from women, you fill it with meaningless things like this. I did not know any better back then. Now I do and do not go because there is no benefit. It will not lead to a good relationship or intimacy. Story 87. For goodness sake, ladies, let's all watch a romantic comedy together and go home. Let's all watch a romantic play together and go home. Okay, you're not as turned on by naked bodies as men are, but you have your own things that tickle that fancy. Is it only fun when you finish? Do you only enjoy the idea of that one single person? This isn't difficult. You can tickle that part of the brain and enjoy it without having to finish. A lot of men like to see naked women. It's fun. They don't need to touch them, and they don't need any future prospect of touching them. They look nice, and that's enjoyable. I'll never fly a jet, be part of an international fight club, or fight an alien predator species, but I like watching that too. Are you going to make a thread about that entertainment too? Story 88. I don't understand. Spending too much money on overpriced drinks and on women who pretend to like you seems like a waste. Story 89. I have never been and never will be, and I absolutely agree that being turned on only to be left would be a miserable experience. That being said, the appeal is that the performers are actresses who pretend that you are a funny and witty person. They pretend to like you so you feel attractive and charming. Story 90. Just simple kindness and female attention, to be honest. Yes, even if it is fake. It is the only place where men get to experience being seduced. Story 91. The first club I went to was when I turned 18 and drove up to Canada to drink. Unless Canadian strip clubs have changed since then, they were unionized and no lap dances were allowed. You could get inches away from the dancers but no contact. You threw loonies or Canadian bills at them on stage. I have only been to one club in the United States and I agree it was a complete waste of money. The one I went to had a mandatory drink order and a door charge. You were already out $40 to $50 there. Then, very aggressive women kept approaching nonstop, wanting lap dances at $25 each minimum. My friend bought me a dance because it was my birthday the next day. She took me to the back room and grinded on me. This place had a strict no-touch policy. I do not know if she was typical, but my hand got smacked for even touching her lower back. So the dance was over. Now, I was very aroused and I could not touch the woman or myself for that matter. I sat back down with my friends and thought to myself that this was a waste of money and deeply sexually frustrating. In the final hour there, maybe 5 other dancers approached me for dances, and they got annoyed when I said no thanks. I have not been back to a strip club since, nor do I have any desire to. From my perspective, the Canadian club was more fun, cheaper, and the dancers were much more relaxed. So much so that my friend and I ended up going to a club with a couple of them after their shift. There is no way that would happen in United States clubs. Story 92. I like breasts. Strip clubs have breasts. In all fairness, I'm a terrible attendee. Strip clubs generally don't mark up their drinks or have much of a cover charge, so you spend money on the girls. I sit at the bar and drink cheap. The bartender gets all my money. I just happen to see some breasts while I'm there. My wife, on the other hand, likes to make it rain like I'm a famous rapper. Story 93. They perform tricks, and if you have been to the one I attended, they attach vibrating devices to DeWalt jackhammers and use them on each other. Story 94. Cooter ball? Caveat. I burned out on them 25 years ago when working for a Japanese company and babysitting their engineers when they came to the United States. I have not been in probably 20 years, and there is little allure to ever go again. Story 95. It doesn't matter to my wife where I work up an appetite as long as I come home to eat. It's just fantasy. Original poster, strippers don't let it get any farther than that. Story 96. It's not much deeper than seeing nice things for free. However, some research shows that proximity to attractive women causes men to experience minor, transient increases in testosterone. Given that many men nowadays are surrounded by people promoting negative views about men, their daily lives may be the opposite of the brief testosterone boosts they get at a strip club. Although those effects are minor, they represent a significant improvement over their typically depressive daily experiences. Story 97. As a guy, I share the same sentiment. Why spend a lot of money just to go home disappointed? Story 98. Why do women act strangely when they dislike something? Let's get excited and then drive home. What? There is food and women there, the top 2 things that the primal brain desires. You could also say sex because some entertainment venues cater to that. Most of the time, the women are attractive. Not all of them, but some are. Story 99. Attractive individuals sometimes pretend to be interested in you. It is similar to cosplaying as a beautiful person or as a very attractive person. Story 100. It is a little fantasy world where attractive women want your attention. If you are the sort of man who gets attention from attractive women in normal environments, or if you cannot suspend your disbelief, it probably does not appeal. If neither of those applies, then it makes sense. Story 101. Straight men enjoy looking at naked women. Is that really so difficult to understand? They don't necessarily become aroused or have erections while driving home. You just hang out with your friends, drink, talk, and the strippers will come sit and talk too. They are naked and usually very nice. They try to get you to tip them so they act friendly, not angry or jealous. So, naked women being nice to us while we hang out with friends, why would men want to participate in that? That is a real mystery. Story 102. Most of the clubs in my area are safe places to use substances and enjoy entertainment, with surprisingly good food. What more could a single person want? Story 103. You do know that the people who work as strippers are doing it to make ends meet? and I happen to admire the art form. I have had some good conversations with them, and I think they are great people. If it is your boyfriend going there and you have communicated that it is a boundary, that might be a problem. Story 104. The girls at the strip club do not get angry and yell at me when I go to strip clubs. So there is that. Story 105. As a man, I don't get it either. It sounds like a punishment, like watching a delicious steak being made, sitting down at the table, putting on the garnish and steak sauce, savoring the smell, getting out the handkerchief and fork and knife, then getting up and leaving. No, just no. Story 106. Men enjoy looking at unclothed women. There is also alcoholic beverages and food, two other things one might enjoy. Story 107. Straight 27-year-old male here. I don't understand either. Why would I want to stare at a woman I cannot touch and who does not care about me? I can just watch adult content in the safety of my home, drink, and not spend money. Story 108. There is nothing like a Texas cabaret at 3 a.m. with Future playing in the background while you are eating some cold chicken wings and having a few shots of tequila. The memories. Story 109. As someone who often went in their 20s, you usually went with your friends who were also not very successful at meeting girls. You could go and honestly talk to many of these girls as long as you paid for a dance or two, and often they had similar interests. I remember a few nights where I spent around $100 total and just chatted about World of Warcraft with a girl who was well outside my physical attraction range. Bonus points for seeing some body. Story 110. Men are visual. Men like female anatomy. Men also do not sit right next to one another in any circumstance unless there is no other option. None of these things are a secret. I do not for a second think this is a genuine question. Story 111. Some strip clubs allow patrons to touch the breasts and buttocks of dancers while receiving lap dances. Some men enjoy this behavior. Story 112. As Nora Vincent said in her book Self-Made Man, for men, sexuality is a very physical desire, whereas for women it is a very mental desire. Simply put, strip clubs satisfy the physical desire. Story 113. Not really my thing. When I worked as a mover 25 years ago, I knew a lot of people who liked them. My thoughts are: 1. People like things that are slightly taboo. Young adults like to do things someone might have told them not to. 2. Strippers make men feel attractive. It is a lot of work to have sexy ladies be into you. Strippers give the illusion of that. I think there is a strong parallel with therapists. You could have a wise, non-judgmental friend you can share your problems with, but that is a lot of work to create and manage. It is easier to pay the therapist. 3. Not much now, but back in the day it was difficult to see naked people. 4. It is performative heteronormative. Having your idea of attractive validated by friends feels good. It is also a way for men to show other men how straight and thus safe they are. 5. Just an anecdote, but I knew a transgender person who was into looking at strippers before coming out. I believe they fantasized about being the stripper or having a conventionally beautiful female body. Story 114. Outside of getting intoxicated and encountering naked women, it is nice to feel desired, even though they obviously just want your money. Story 115. The one time I did it, the exotic dancer actually took it to the maximum. Cost me $900, but it is something I only do once a year. Story 116. I have never understood the appeal either. I have never been and do not care to go. I can see nude women online for free and get the same experience. Story 117. Honestly, I don't get it either. I know men who go out and spend $500 to $1,000 in a night and then go home sexually frustrated. If I had $1,000 in cash, I would throw it on the bed and have a good time by myself. Enjoy personally and still wake up with $1,000. Story 118. Honestly, with the availability of adult content these days, I'm not sure. Surely the local strippers can't look any better than most of the people who post explicit material on the internet for free. When people are at home, they can satisfy themselves. Story 119. I worked in a strip club once. It was a very strange atmosphere. I did not really understand what was enjoyable. Story 120. I do not know. I would have to go with men I was not also attracted to, or else I would want to leave and be with one of them. But I guess that makes more sense for heterosexual men. Story 121. The first time my friend and I went to a New York City strip club, it was exciting and fun. Two dancers draped themselves over us. Up until then, I had only seen naked women in Playboy magazine. Story 122. I have been to one once because a friend really wanted to go for his 30th birthday. None of the rest of us wanted to be there besides him. If I wanted to look at naked women, I can go look at adult content online for free and relax while drunk or high in my own home. The logic of getting drunk and watching women dance to bad music does not make sense to me as a man, especially given how poor the quality and expensive the whole experience is. What I did notice is that many of the men who appear to be regulars or go more than once are definitely there for companionship rather than only for physical appeal, and it was a sad thing to observe. To be honest, I probably would have enjoyed the strip club a little if they had good food, but all they had was a couple of slices of thin crust pizza, probably sitting in a warmer for hours. Story 123. There was one in Calgary named the French Maid that had the best grilled cheese sandwiches I had ever had. The presence of naked ladies dancing was not the point. Story 124. It's a huge plus. You literally get to look at everything with a total stranger for a couple of $20 bills. It's far cheaper than dating or marrying. All you have to do is pay, and you get your nice view. Story 125. Some men in Florida took me to a lap dance bar. I was fine until I needed to use the bathroom. The female dancers were stunning. Story 126. As a man, I don't really understand it either. I am not against it, but I find it similar to being very hungry, going to a restaurant to look at some nice steaks, and then leaving. Story 127. I'd always rather play the video game myself than watch a Twitch stream. I'm with you. I've been to strip clubs on bachelor parties, but it is really not that interesting and kind of boring, to be honest. I have no interest in looking at scantily clad ladies if I'm not getting sex. Why go to a restaurant to only look at the pictures on the menu if you know you are not going to eat any of the food? Story 128. Yes, as others have clearly stated, because it is fun. Expensive, provocative, taboo fun. Nude women, alcohol, drugs, hopefully an Uber ride home, but it is just innocent fun. Story 129. A quick review of your profile suggests you have not socialized much with other men. It essentially comes down to the fact that many men enjoy seeing naked women. This is a biological trigger. Story 130. I am a straight male and I don't understand them either. 1. They are not cheap. 2. There are other men there, most of whom are horny or drunk. 3. The women are only pretending to like you. 4. Even if she genuinely liked you, you are not allowed to touch her. 5. Even if you were allowed to touch her, she would probably be comfortable having many other men touch her as well. 6. If she is comfortable with many strange men touching her for money, is she really a marriageable type of woman? I am the monogamous relationship type of guy and not into hookup culture. One woman is enough for me. The idea of paying a woman for a tease and a lap dance seems pointless. Story 131. Magic Mike shows are constantly sold out, and the audience is mostly women. Not all men enjoy strip clubs, and not all women enjoy Magic Mike-style shows, yet some do. Story 132. No, I know that's how movies portray strip clubs and bachelor parties, but in reality, it's mostly boring and no one is getting aroused. It's similar to a relaxed time spent looking at different types of classic or exotic cars at an auto show, but with beer and nudity. Men are very visual, but there is also curiosity and novelty in seeing different body types, shapes, and sizes. Normally, it would be impolite to stare, but not in a strip club. However, you should not be getting excessively aroused there. This is unsolicited advice, but if you ever feel that your partner, whom you trust implicitly, visiting a strip club would make you uncomfortable, then tell them beforehand. It's not a big ask, but if they act like it is or dismiss your feelings, then that is a serious red flag. Never be afraid to speak up about something like that. Note, if a man goes to a club seeking physical contact like a lap dance, then there may be an emotional deficiency he is subconsciously trying to offset. That man was already aroused before entering. Story 133. To be able, without shame, to look at scantily clad women and give them £20 to show us their breasts, all while sitting on a comfortable sofa and drinking alcohol. Story 134. I must be a broken person. I'm feeling the same. I just don't understand it. I see the attraction with prostitutes. They do the full job. Strippers just get you all revved up and send you home. Not for me, I'm afraid, but each to their own. Story 135. I agree with you, original poster. I have been to a strip club once, on a bachelor party for one of my friends. It was exciting for about 10 minutes because there were either topless or almost naked women on stage or walking around. Then we realized quickly that we could not actually do anything except look at or chat with them. We paid for him to have a private lap dance, which he does not even remember as he was very drunk, and then left almost immediately. The night ended soon after that. I have no desire to go to another. Story 136. To be honest, as a straight male, I never really understood the appeal. I can look at more naked women in the privacy of my own home for free. So why would I pay to see a woman in a bikini bottom that I cannot touch? You cannot even masturbate there, as it is frowned upon. The only thing I can figure is getting the girlfriend experience, where a stripper pretends to care about you so you can pretend for a few minutes that you are not paying for love, except in a more expensive way than hiring a prostitute. Story 137. A long time ago, I worked in a few small towns where, by the time I finished working, they were the only places open. I would go in, have a burger and a beer, watch some dancers perform, and then head back to my hotel. It was better than what was on television. Story 138. Never been to one, but as a man it should be pretty obvious why some might want to go. The whole let's get excited together being a weird thing is a valid point, though. Here is my wisdom. Some people just do not care or overthink these things. It is as simple as that. Story 139. In general, the ladies at strip clubs understand the kind of attention and intimacy men need. They know that their regular customers, as opposed to one-time novelty visitors, represent a steady stream of income. These men are seeking intimacy and attention because they are not in healthy relationships elsewhere. Some may be looking for an escape from verbal and emotional abuse. Others may struggle socially or feel less confident about their appearance. These men find peace and camaraderie while enjoying female entertainment targeted to them. The dancers recognize that these men's needs are not being met, but they can provide all those things and offer services without making the men feel like failures or bad people. The regular customers seek fulfillment of their needs. The novelty seekers look for a thrill. Story 140. When I was in my 20s, it was the easiest way to see breasts. I didn't have any at home, and I got to feel a woman on top of me for a few minutes. Story 141. It is enjoyable to look at things that are visually appealing. It feels nice to have women act interested in you, even if you know it is not for real. Story 142. I have never been to a wing festival and have never cared to go. However, I joke about going every now and then for chicken wings. Story 143. Though they indulge the most, it is not an entirely male pastime. The female of the species also enjoys the company of male entertainers. Story 144. I have never been interested in a strip club either for the reasons you mentioned. However, breasts are the reason. Story 145. I used to go with my wife and our group of friends in our 20s. They had decent beer and it was a real dive bar, so there were always interesting people around. Story 146. It is easier to get a taxi to go home after a night out. Just tell the bouncer, and he calls one immediately. Story 147. The women are there just for you. It's a break from constantly having to pay attention to the needs of a woman while still hanging out with one. Story 148. I am an elderly man who has never visited a strip club. I am not religious or anything. It is just that the idea is creepy and sad. Also, I cannot imagine that the women feel anything but disgust for the men who do go. Story 149. I took my wife to a strip club a couple of times, and we had so much fun. The girls did too. When we got home, we had marathon sex. You should go with him sometime. Story 150. I am a male in my 40s, and I never understood the appeal of them. Drinks are overpriced, nobody talks to you, and when women do, it is to get your money. Story 151. The answer is in your comment. Some women have been censoring men for the smallest things. Strip clubs are unwelcome places for women, but they are literally places to relax and not be judged. They are equivalent to a spa for women. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.